And then you speak into that. And then when you're not speaking, just turn.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Pat, will you please call the roll?
Yes, good morning. City of Avondale, Harold Seguina.
Present.
City of Buckeye, James Shano or John Willett. City of Chandler, Ryan Peters.
Present.
City of El Mirage, Amber Wakeman.
Present.
Town of Fountain Hills, Dave Trimble.
Here.
Town of Gilbert, Mary Goodman.
Here.
City of Glendale, Kevin Phelps.
Here.
City of Goodyear, Keeney Knutson.
Here.
Maricopa County, Jason Matthews. City of Mesa, Jody Sorrell. Present. City of Peoria, Chris Hallett.
Present.
City of Phoenix, Jesus Sapien.
Present.
Town of Queen Creek, Shay Yoakum.
Here.
City of Scottsdale, Mark Melanchenko.
Here.
City of Surprise, Tracy Montgomery.
Present.
And City of Tempe, Lizette Camacho.
Present.
City of Tolleson, Reyes Medrano. Chair, we have a quorum. We're ready to proceed.
All right, thank you, Pat. If a committee member would like to ask a question or make a comment during the meeting, please type your comment in the box and it will be read aloud and answered. All meeting attendees are reminded to please mute your computer or microphone or your phone, however you're participating while the meeting is in progress. Agenda item 1, public comment. The public will be provided an opportunity to speak at this time to address the committee on non-agenda items and all action items for the joint RPTA and Valley Metro Rail agendas. Up to 3 minutes will be provided per speaker unless the chair allows for more time at my discretion. A total of 15 minutes for all speakers will be provided. Pat, do we have any public comment?
Yes, Chair. Angela Estrella.
I kind of talk fast, so I'm going to try to slow it down, but not too slow. Okay.
1 moment.
All right. Thanks. Because I'm really loud. So, okay. Thank you. Okay. At Thelma Louise TC, they have a digital bus times. I waited as it counted down to the time, but it never showed up. The bus should have, hold on, the bus had to be replaced with another bus, and it would be helpful if it would show that like, hey, this bus is not coming, there's another bus coming, so we can know that like, we're not going to get to where we're trying to get to on time. And then I know it's usually been an estimated time for all bus times, but for over the years, Tempe area always showed bus times. Nowhere else in the valley, they show the bus times. So could a future goal be to put the digital bus times at every bus stop? And then at times I'll be heading to a destination and try to like plan ahead to look for the bus times after. And then when I look online or call, they don't give me the right time because it's all estimated time. So then like, let me see, it'll just be wrong. Like I'll never get to where I'm trying to go because it's all estimated times. And then the Peoria seats, the homeless take out the screws in the chairs. So you sit in them and then you either go back or go forward and you put stuff on there and then it falls and breaks and then everything you just bought just gets destroyed. And then also at the Peoria bus stops, but are not the regular pink or regular bus stops, they're all blue and they have like a little mountain on it. I don't know what, I think that's Peoria. They don't have like the bus times, and sometimes at the bus stops things, they don't have the bus times at the, like the next ride bus numbers at the bus stops. So.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Boo Crowley. We'll adjust them. There you go. Thank you.
Good morning. I notice it says meeting of management committee. At one time, it was all the city managers, and it's the only committee that's equal to the one at MAG, because that one's all the managers. I see in here in today's agenda that you have the plans for the implementation of the past in the agenda item, current and future items. But then I also look at the document I got from the state on what the plan was. And in here, it has the bunch of streets. It says arterial streets to enhance connectivity to and from regional freeway system and cut down on congestion. And I'm looking at all of these and I'm going, well, Mag, when you're doing that, are you also at the same time going to be putting in bus stops? Because that concept is totally foreign to this organization. I look at this document, which is all the not deferred or delayed, but all of this routes that were totally dumped and dropped. And when I would get up here and ask, hey, what are we doing about getting this done? I didn't see any advocacy on your part to re-implement or get those done. And I don't see where you're going to be doing that in the future. It says you're going to double the amount of buses. But at the same time, when I look in this document and know that there are 1,300 bus stops in the system that don't have a shelter. Wonder why. And then in here on, what was it, agenda item 5, where you're saying that for the fare inspection and security services, my favorite part is that we're going to make sure that the police of Tempe and Phoenix are a part of this. Does that make them more police security rather than fare inspectors? What they are is fare inspectors. I heard on the TV that every single rail car has an assault per day. Now, if we've got those people out there for security, are they on individual units or are they going in a gang of 3 and we're only getting 1/3 of the coverage? Well,
All right, thank you, Mr. Crowley.
hope that you guys can put together a plan and do the job. But like I said, when it only says future agenda items, when are you going to get the job and when are you going to get to it?
Thank you. Agenda item 2, Chief Executive Officer's report.
We still have one more
Oh,
public comment.
okay, my apologies.
That's great. Tammy Nixon.
I have a lot of attention today, even at the table.
Good morning. My name is Tammy Nixon. I'm the Regional Vice President that oversees for Allied Universal that oversees Arizona. Allied Universal has been a successful partner for Valley Metro for the past 12 years. We are respectfully requesting Management Committee continues agenda item number 5, Fare Inspection and Security Services Contract Award. Allied Universal filed a request for documents January 24th, 2025. As of yesterday at 2 p.m., we received the evaluation documents. Thank you for providing those as we now have an opportunity to review them. We are requesting an interview and would also respectfully request a 30-day extension to the decision to move forward with the new contract. Thank you, and we're available for any questions. Thank you for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you. And just for clarification, since this is on an agenda item, is there opportunity for comment or how does that work?
It's a public comment, so we wouldn't respond to it.
Okay, thank you. All right, agenda item 2, Jessica Meffer-Miller will provide the CEO report.
Good morning, members of the committees. Just a quick update for you this morning. Last week on the South Central Extension Construction Project, we had the first of many celebrations of our pending opening in mid-2025 on the South Central Extension. We celebrated with local community groups and stakeholders, including members of our 2 construction advisory boards, the first crossing of a light rail vehicle over the Salt River Bridge, which really represents bridging a symbolic as well as a physical divide between downtown Phoenix and much of the region and South Central Phoenix. We were joined at this event by U.S. Representative Ansari and Phoenix Council members Galindo Elvira and Hodge Washington. We are working now on testing. In fact, we have crews on the field this morning participating in testing on South Central, and we look forward to celebrating with the community at our opening in mid-2025. We will have additional pre-opening events, and we'll continue to communicate those to the board. We anticipate a public event to be held in March. That concludes my remarks. Are there any questions I may answer of the committees? Oh, look ahead. Sorry, forgot one important item. Tomorrow we'll be back in this room for Audit Finance Subcommittee, and we will meet with the full boards on February 20th. For our March meeting, we will have a regularly scheduled board meeting to conduct business. This will also be our Board of Directors retreat. We're working with board members now to finalize the agenda for that board retreat. This will be an extended time period from 11:15 a.m. to 2:15 p.m. We encourage board members, if at all possible, to attend in person. And with all of our public meetings, we welcome participation from city staff or attendance from city staff and the public. Now that concludes my remarks.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. It's presented for action. Does the committee have any questions or any items that need to be pulled for separate discussion? Seeing none, I request a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items 3A and 3B.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Who made the motion? Oh, thank you, King.
Motion passes. Item number 4, marketing and advertising support services contract extension and an increase in authorization request. Jessica Medford-Mill, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to invite Caitlin Eberly to the podium to provide the committees with a brief presentation on this item.
Thank you, Jessica, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Before you is the Marketing and Advertising Support Services contract. In 2022, 3-year contracts were awarded to On Advertising, Heart and Soul Marketing, Magnetry, and Hackett Advertising for the agency's on-call marketing and advertising needs. Through this contract, Valley Metro is able to meet the increasing needs of all internal departments and member cities, communicate to passengers and stakeholders, promote Valley Metro services, and implement strategic marketing efforts. These firms provide unique support and expertise to the in-house marketing and communications staff. Some of the high-profile campaigns the firms have assisted with include Super Bowl, transit impact storytelling, our bus ridership promotion, support of the opening of our capital extensions, as well as our bus and light rail safety campaign. The firms will continue to help with some of these projects and more through the summer of 2026. These cooperative contracts procured through the state of Arizona were scheduled to end in August 2025. The state extended the cooperative contracts through August 2026. So this request is to extend the contract end date and match that of the state cooperative contract date of August 31st, 2026, and increase contract authority to spend through that date. The request increased contract authority of $1.75 million for a contract total of $4 million. This is not a request to increase the budget. So staff recommends that the TMC RMC forward to the boards of directors authorization for the chief executive officer to extend contract and increase the contract authority for the marketing and advertising support contracts with the 4 firms. The contract extension request is August 31st, 2026, and the contract authority increase requested is $1.75 million. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, Jody.
Hi, Caitlin. Just a couple questions. So is it, because there's been discussion at the board about extending contracts rather than rebidding the contracts. And this is a fairly lengthy extension, and I get it's the state contract. So is it Valley Metro's intention to continue as much as possible to purchase off the state contract as opposed to rebid and do your own on-call?
So oh, Jessica.
I'll go ahead and take that. So in this instance, I think it depends. We would like to purchase off the state contract for this particular business item for at least the next year. And we are going to be discussing procurement practices at the board retreat on February 20th. It will not be an action item, but rather we're responding to board feedback and direction. We'll share thoughts on modifications to procurement practices and get their informal direction. Again, no action taken at this time. Among the items that we will be discussing is our processes for determining if and when to exercise option years on existing contracts, if and when to extend contracts. And then we'll introduce practices, including whether we competitively procure or purchase off of state contracts. So to answer your question, Ms. Sorrell, at this time, we'd like to continue to exercise this contract for at least a year. And a month from now, I think we'll be having I will have a little bit different or more refined answer for you pending board feedback, but I don't want to circumvent that direction.
No,
from them.
and I just wanted to make that note.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'll request a motion and a second to forward this item to the joint boards of directors for approval.
I'll make a motion to forward it.
Mr. Chair, this is Jesus in Phoenix. I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Agenda item 5, Fair Inspection and Security Services Contract Award. Ms. Meffer-Miller, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll provide a brief background and then I'll invite Adrian Rees, our Director of Security and Safety, to the podium to provide a brief presentation. This is an item of significance. The Fair Inspection and Security Services Contract Award is coming to the joint boards. I do want to note that the majority of this contract is expended on Valley Metro Rail. About 97% of expenditures are for Valley Metro Rail, 3% for RPTA, and that's primarily security services at the Mesa Greenfield Bus Operations and Maintenance Facility. I also want to provide a little bit bigger context in the topic of security, since it's been a key item of discussion. A few updates related to Valley Metro security. The board took action last July to increase wage rates on the Allied Universal contract. Frontline wage rates on that contract are currently at $24 an hour. This has helped bridge what has been or had been a longstanding gap for workforce availability against our prescribed hours. I'm pleased to share with you that we're sitting at about a 3% vacancy rate, and the presence of security guards and fare inspectors is noticeable on the system. We're hearing positive feedback from our customers and stakeholders about that visible presence. I see it myself. So we're in, I think, solid shape at the moment there. In other areas of security, our customer experience coordinators are really ambassadors of the system. They are out on light rail. We have 11 customer experience coordinators today. That number is going to increase by the middle of this year to 14 with the opening of the South Central extension. And they are there to answer questions, to provide assistance and guidance to customers. They're a tiny but mighty team of just 11 today, but an important part of our overall approach. Related to our ability to collect and inspect fares, we have now completed installation of 111 ticket vending machines across the light rail system. So that is allowing us to vend new fare media to our customers and allowing those fare inspectors to electronically validate fares, which is a wonderful advancement. We're also working on revitalizing the hardscape, or looking at how the system is designed to create secure, comfortable, and inviting environments for our customers. This past fall, together with City of Phoenix, we celebrated the reopening of the plaza and station at 19th and Dunlap and introduced what is now rebranded as Plaza 19. And those investments were made to create a more secure environment through the lens of crime prevention through environmental design. We're also working now on a crime prevention through environmental design that assesses the entire existing rail station, including all streetcar and light rail stations, all light rail vehicles, and surrounding environments. Your staffs and several of our board members have participated on walkthroughs as part of that study. We look forward to sharing the results of that work later this year. And finally, our law enforcement partners are critical to our provision of a safe and secure customer environment. We're continuing to work with law enforcement entities on Operation Blue Ride, which focuses on bridging gaps between Valley Metro and law enforcement and introduces law enforcement to patrolling on bus as well as light rail. That concludes my introduction, and now I want to turn it over to Adrian, who is going to provide you with a brief presentation. Should there be questions related to the procurement process, Jonathan Thatcher, Director of Contracts and Procurement, is also available in the room. Adrian, please.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. Good morning, Chair, members of the Joint Committee. I'll be presenting a brief presentation, as Jessica stated, on the Fair Inspection Security Services contract. I'd first like to cover some of the key components associated with procurement objectives. Maintain full staffing. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. We want to lead with customer service supported by a foundation of security and civil enforcement knowledge. The hours of presence is the number of hours dedicated to frontline activities and all other functions such as account manager, assistant account manager, supervisors, trainers, recruiters are designed to support and contribute to the success of the effectiveness of the resources performing that hour presence work. The hour presence unit cost is an average of all positions, including support. Frontline compensation is a priority to ensure quality applicants are recruited and retained, and with frequent quality touch points through robust supervision. There's also a reduced cost to switch. What that means is by awarding a primary and secondary time and effort to switch contractors, if the current contractor is not meeting those contractual obligations, is reduced significantly. There is no board approval needed. And finally, evaluation panel members. It's important to have a diverse panel with varying areas of focus internally and a cadre of law enforcement personnel in transit familiar with the security operations. We worked as a team to provide a thorough review of all proposals. Next, we want to introduce Intercon, the contractor selected as the primary award with Allied Universal as the secondary award. Their attributes include 51 years of experience and family-owned and led, with over 80% retention through transitions, transit experience with positive referrals and outcomes. That transit experience includes those listed here with CTA, LA Metro, MTS DART also, and Vegas RTC. Three specifically that we spoke to, the three listed on the slide, shared Intercon fills on average 95 to 99% of their weekly hours, including special events. What we are buying and why. We desire to modify the scope of work now, ahead of South Central, and with our continued growth, look at competition and offers from the current industry, which has changed significantly. We focused in the newly revised scope of work on 4 key points: enhanced experience of the frontline key personnel, contractor accountability through the new hours of presence methodology, training, including more robust field training and assessments, as well as mental health crisis and management, reporting and data to include a requirement for the contractor to not only collect, but analyze the data and evaluate new deployment models and assess areas of highest risk and exposure. Revise the terms to 1-year contract with 4 one-year options, thereby holding the contractor to earn each option year. Moving on to the slide that we're going to talk about award economics and implementation. The first portion of this slide covers the 20% increase in hours of presence related to South Central. The 7% decrease in hour of presence rate compared to our current contractor. 12% increase in total cost. The new contractor provided a rate increase of the hourly rate by 75 cents to $24.75 per hour. Located on the bottom of this slide is the proposed timeline with some key milestones. Force board authorization, February 20th. Activation of the transition team with key personnel from Intercon here, boots on the ground, meeting with our team. Hold post-award conference and set guidelines for our expectations for the transition. Conduct initial meetings on transition and focus on high income captures of solid performing personnel with institutional knowledge. We will assign a project manager, Angie DeVore, to support the coordination and logistics. Valley Metro Security Manager Don Schneidmiller will be point of contact for the department and the transition connection between the contractor, accomplishments, and challenges. I will provide regular touchpoints updates to the CEO and stakeholders on milestone activities, transition between current and new contractor, and address any issues immediately. Key components of this transition. Allied Universal has agreed to cooperate and support these activities. Communication is key to frontline personnel and throughout, as well as the incumbent capture progress. Issues and challenges are expected, however, we are confident of our transition timeline and team and plan to resolve any issues effectively. And my apologies ahead of time, I will not be here for the board meeting. Don Schneidmiller will take this over the finish line. But before we read the recommendation, are there any questions? That concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, this is Shay with the Town of Queen Creek. Could we get a little bit of background on the procurement process for this contract?
Absolutely. Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much. I'll let Jonathan Thatcher take the podium.
Yes, thank you in terms of the process for the procurement, could you give me a little bit more information about what elements or parts you would like to know about?
Sure, just the methodology used, and is there any active appeals to this procurement?
Yeah, so we did use an RFP, request for proposal methodology. It went through all of the typical phases of an RFP, including BAFO and negotiations. There were I believe we had 7 proposals that were found responsive and responsible. 3 of those were moved into the competitive range or deemed in the competitive range to moved into BAFO and negotiations. 1 of those 3 were found non-responsive because of exceptions submitted with their BAFO response. And so we did find that that offer non-responsive in the process. We do have requests for documents, which we prepared the procurement file for a pre-award protest period. And that was launched yesterday at about 2 p.m.
Forgive me, I'm not entirely familiar with your procurement policy. So someone could still appeal this award before it goes to the board? Is that what I heard you say?
Correct. So Valley Metro's protest process accounts for both a pre-award protest, which is open for 5 calendar days, post notice of preliminary selection. We told that 5 calendar day requirement because we had to prepare the procurement file for disclosure to interested parties, so it becomes available to all offers under the solicitation. And then there is obviously a protest can be filed. The agency would respond to that. There is an appeal process to the CEO of the agency as well. And then a similar protest process can occur after board award. But that is solely in terms of identifying any issues that occurred during the board award process versus reopening the pre-award protest issues.
Okay, last question from me. I see it's a 1-year contract award with 4-year options to extend, and then I just heard a transition plan that takes roughly 3 to 4 months to execute. What was the logic between choosing a 1-year contract, which it seems like switching would be very challenging?
So the implementation, and I don't know, did you want to speak to the implementation? The implementation plan is about 45 to 60 days with the planned new award.
If I may as well, I think it's also worth mentioning that as we have been providing updates on security over time, part of the direction that we have received from the board regarding this particular contract is an appetite to be able to change contractors if performance is unsatisfactory. We took that feedback and we covered this in a couple of different sessions with the Valley Metro Rail Board of Directors, and then again with the full board when we requested authority to release a request for proposals, is that there would be a secondary award on this contract. The primary purpose of the secondary award on this contract is to have another firm available with an existing contract mechanism should the primary contractor not fulfill the requirements of the contract. So with any with that switch, there would be a 45 to 60-day startup time for that new contract, but it does help us avoid going out for a new procurement process, which is quite lengthy and it takes in excess of 1 year to do that. So again, this is in response to board direction.
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Chair,
you.
this is Susan Phoenix. I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So Jonathan, can you confirm whether or not there is an active protest right now?
So the letter that was received was requesting the opening of the pre-award protest period. There has not been a valid protest submitted to the agency at this point. However, the procurement file was just supplied to interested parties or made available to interested parties yesterday, starting at 2 p.m. We had 2 pending requests for the procurement file, and those were both fulfilled yesterday as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll request a motion and a second on this item to forward to the joint boards for approval.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Chair, this is Susan Phoenix. I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item 6, travel and expenditures. Are there any questions from the committee on this item? It is for information only. Seeing none, report on current events and suggested future agenda items. Are there any? Seeing none, the next meeting of the TMC RMC is scheduled for Wednesday, March 5th at 11 a.m. The joint meeting is adjourned, and we're going to move on to the Transit Management Committee. Meeting is convened. Item 1, minutes from the January 8th meeting are presented for approval. May I have a motion and a second on this item?
So moved. Harold from Avondale, second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item 2, Jessica Meffer-Miller, will you please introduce the RPTA fiscal year mid-year budget adjustment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to invite Ken Kessler, Chief Financial Officer, to the podium to provide background and presentation.
Thank you, Jessica. Chair, members of the committee, I'm going to give a brief presentation on the RPTA mid-year budget adjustment. So just sort of high level here, we have a number of program areas that we're revising the estimates for based on a number of factors. So first, we have East Valley Bus estimate reduction based on estimated fuel costs decrease from the city of Tempe. The ride choice and paratransit programs, our ATS staff has been working with the member cities on these budget increases here, a variety of things within the contract. Ride choice, Phoenix and Glendale service was added after we had adopted the budget last year. So that's an impact, as well as some changes in the provider rates. And on the paratransit side, we also have some provider rate updates, as well as some increased usage of the overflow provider, and as well some impacts of the delays in transitioning the broker vendor due to a software procurement. So additionally, in the operating budget, there's some increases in the van pool program. This is mostly a good story here. This is increased usage and participation in the program. So this program has grown greater than we had expected. And this program is fully funded by the participants' fares and federal funds. And then the next item we have here, a small item for the I-10 Broadway Curve project. So we do some, use an ad agency to do some outreach and marketing around this. And so due to the delay in completion of this project, some additional costs there to keep that outreach and communication going until the end of the project. And then lastly, there's a fixed route service that the city of Phoenix operates. That's actually funded with public transportation funds, so that flows through our budget. They did provide us some revised estimates, decreasing that estimated cost based on some additional preventive maintenance funding, which lowers their overall gross cost, and as well as some fuel cost reductions there as well. And next is just a recap of the source of funds for this mid-year budget adjustment, totaling netting of $1.9 million. Do want to note, though, also for the paratransit, our ATS staff continues to work with member cities to revise numbers and, projections on trips and things like that. And we expect when this goes to the board, that number will reduce by approximately $700,000. So the 4.7 million on paratransit will reduce to about around 4 million. The overall net budget adjustment will decrease from about 1.9 to 1.2 million when this does go to the board. And then just here's a summary table of the uses of funds and the various programs that have changes due to the mid-year budget adjustment. And then the recommendation for TMC to forward to the Board of Directors approval of this mid-year budget adjustment. That concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Chair, I have some comments.
Yes.
Okay. We, Tempe, we have some concerns regarding the increase in the paratransit cost caused by a reduction in the paratransit trips operated by the provider. So it's our understanding that the provider has been unable to provide all trips intended, and this has contributed to the increase in cost. So looking ahead, we'd like to review the contract and the way it's structured, so that we don't see an increase in cost due to from the provider not being able to meet their obligations.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to invite Jonathan Thatcher again to the podium to describe amendments that have been made to this contract to address just that, Mr. Thatcher.
Yes, thank you, Chair Peters and the committee. Happy to take a look at that, and I think there's ongoing conversations regarding this contract. There are some structural issues with the price schedule that we would like to address going forward. And the volume under this contract was sitting right on the cusp between two different tier breaks, a lower tier that had a higher price of volume based on volume, and the next tier up that was based on a higher volume level. And so we did resolve some contractual issues through an amendment that made no annual true-ups at the end of contract years going forward, and made a few other adjustments within the contract so that those things would not be experienced in the next few years of this contract.
Chair, if I may?
Yes.
When would those amendments be effective?
I believe those amendments have already been signed, is my recollection. They've completed the signature process, but they were effective as of this second contract year. And so part of what we did was we moved to, rather than an annual look back, we moved to a rolling 12 to establish both the fixed and variable price pricing tier within that contract, so that that you weren't using a full contract year to then do a look back and try and either scrape back money from a vendor or have to send additional true-up dollars to a member at the end of a contract year.
And then just last question for me. Is it fair to say then that we wouldn't see any increase moving forward, similar to this?
I would not anticipate any, well, there specifically and explicitly will not be any contract year-end true-ups going forward. That is now prohibited based on the contract amendment. And the current pricing tier that you are in, or that the agency is in, there would not be, it would be unlikely, especially once the West Valley multimodal volume moves to the West Valley contract, that you would move out of the existing tier. So this tier should be consistent through the remainder of the initial term of the contract.
Thank you.
I do want to note, barring any change in volume, significant change in volume that is related to customer demand.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Follow up on that. Just following up on those questions, will there be some kind of summary that's provided out to member agencies about what those changes were made to be able to avoid this in the future?
Yes, I believe a copy of the contract amendment has been shared with all of the member cities, but happy to follow up and get you a copy of the contract amendment. It's a public document at this point. So.
We'd be happy to provide that to this committee. So this topic is covered often in the Accessible Transportation Services Working Group, of which member city staff participate, and then the Regional Transit Advisory Group, or RTAG as we call it, of which city staff participate. But we will ensure that this committee has a draft of that amendment as well.
Thank you. And I appreciate staff's proactive look at this. It's something that Chandler also has concerns with, and appreciate looking forward to it.
Jesus has his hand.
Jesus.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. My question is, I understand the rationale and the use of the tiers in the contract in that the more trips that are taken, you hit a tier that is a lower price. However, my understanding of a good chunk of this mid-year budget adjustment, the 4.7 million specifically for paratransit, is that more of the trips are being sent to the overflow providers and TNCs. Thus, we're hitting a lower tier in the contract in terms of trip usage. Hence, that's triggering the higher price. If I have all that right, I think I understand that. But I guess my question is, if we are having a lower number of trips, recognizing that they're at a higher price, why is that still contributing to this? Because I would guess the lower number of trips, even though if they're a higher price, should nonetheless result in a lower overall financial impact. So can someone, perhaps Tom or someone from that team, explain why that's happening?
Sorry, I'm going to invite Mike Powell, Chief Transportation Officer, to the podium.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jesus, for your question. So part of the overall problem is just the inefficiencies on the broker scheduling combined with the provider's ability to provide those trips, leading to more outsourcing of trips. So even though less trips are provided, there is increased outsourcing, and that is contributing to the overall cost and budget increase.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mike. I totally get that, but I guess my question is, if we're at a higher tier, that means we're buying more trips at a lower cost. In this scenario, we're buying less trips at a higher cost, but shouldn't there still be a financial differential between the two?
Actually, because the more trips are being outsourced, and that's generating a lot of the increase in cost. Overflow provider cost for this mid-year is about 1.1 million, contributing to that overall mid-year budget increase, Jesus.
So is it the case that, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but as some of you had heard me say before, the math ain't mathing. Is it the case that we are buying less trips at a higher rate and that still exceeds buying more trips at a lower rate?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
At surface level, for me, it just feels like the contract was framed in a way that incentivizes underperformance. And so, again, I appreciate you taking a look at that and tightening it up. Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, I will take a motion and a second to forward this item to the joint boards of directors for approval.
I'll make a motion to forward this to the TMC, the RPTA board. I'm like, forgot where it was.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Jesus in Phoenix. I'll second.
All right, thank you, Jesus. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item 3, report on current events and suggested future agenda items. Seeing none, the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, March 5th at 11 a.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Okay. I will call to order the Rail Management Committee meeting for February. The minutes from the January 8th RMC meeting are presented for approval. Do we have any questions about the minutes or corrections to the minutes? Or do we have a motion or a second to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes passed. Item number 2. I like having my mic off. The VMR fiscal year 2025 mid-year budget adjustment. Jessica?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ken Kessler, Chief Financial Officer, will again provide a presentation on this budget adjustment item.
Thank you, Jessica. Chair, members of the committee. Brief presentation here on the VMR side. So the budget adjustment for VMR is comprised of one operating budget adjustment as well as some capital budget adjustments. So on the operating side, as was mentioned earlier today, there's some wage rate increases approved for the current Allied Universal contract. That approval of those wage rate increases by the board happened believe the same month or maybe the month after the budget was actually adopted by the board. So we did not include that into the budget at that time, pending that approval. And since we've done some estimates of the costs going through the end of the year and see that we need about a $900,000 budget adjustment on the operating side for that particular contract. And so here, just a quick summary of the source of funds. Obviously, the operating budget for VMR very much funded by member cities. And then on the use side here, just a recap of the various programs within VMR, showing the change here to the security light rail. And then on the capital side, more substantial changes. These changes are largely just timing of the activities and the payments and cash flows for these projects. So first we have future project development, about a $1.7 million increase to the current year budget. This is the Rio East Dobson project, and the work on that basically going forward higher than planned at the time we developed this budget a little less than a year ago. On the South Central side, about $101 million adjustment needed there. Again, timing on this project, some costs from last fiscal years kind of carried forward to this year as just invoicing and activities happened. And then also some costs planned for next year are moved forward into the current year budget due to the estimated opening of the system. At that time, we were looking at somewhere later in the summer. Some more costs were expected to be in FY26 with the opening of the South Central extension slated for the spring of this current fiscal year. We're looking at some of those costs being pulled forward into the current fiscal year. And then Northwest Phase 2, again, no changes to the overall federal project budget for either one of these, South Central or Northwest. Just the timing in terms of some of the costs and some of the final work that we're doing on Northwest to close out that grant. Tempe streetcar, again, largely due to the timing of payments for revenue vehicles and spare parts, capital extension. Again, just the timing of cost of planned work for that project. And then Gilbert Road continues. I know, Jody. Again, timing of some of those milestone payments slipping from last year into this year. I'm hopeful one day that project will actually be closed.
Me too.
And then system-wide improvements and state of good repair. Just some additional timing changes on the payments for the revenue vehicles. There's a order for, I believe it's 11 system-wide improvement vehicles, and just kind of the update to the cash flow on that contract. And state of good repair, a few things there. Some propulsion boards for the Kinkishario vehicles, some paver replacement work, and the Tempe Town Lake lighting project, as well as some of the costs for the fare collection project and spare parts into this year's budget. Then here's the source of funds. Summary here for the capital program change there, the $130 million change, again, largely mostly due to just timing on these various projects. And then a summary by program of each of the capital programs here. And with that, that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Ken, can I just get a point of clarification? When you did the streetcar budget mid-year adjustment, you made a comment about costs being higher. Something that I just want to clarify, the project cost for that is still $2 million, but it's how you budgeted.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The project cost didn't go up, so
Correct.
Tempe and Mesa aren't going to pay more. It's just how it.
It's the timing of
factored in
it.
the budget.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Okay, do we have a motion or a second for the BMR mid-year budget adjustment?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation as outlined on the slide.
Do we have a second?
All second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? No? Okay, do any members have any reports or current events they would like to share? Hearing none, the next meeting of the RMC is Wednesday, March 5th at 11 o'clock.
Thank you.